students. Good afternoon, students. Good afternoon, aspiring architects. Thank you for joining us this afternoon for our career talk, The Road Less Traveled By. So for a couple of years, the Southwestern University has been offering medical courses, and just in the recent years, it has opened its doors for those who want to pursue creative courses like architecture and communications. So that is why this talk is called "The Road Less Traveled By." So this afternoon, I'm sure that a lot of our viewers are here because they're curious about our program and about architecture in general. So there are probably students here who want to pursue, who are very sure in pursuing a career in architecture. And there are probably students here as well who actually have no clue as to what they're trying to get into. So hopefully this afternoon, this career talk will enlighten you to help you make a decision for your future. So this afternoon, we are joined by three esteemed guests. Um, we are joined by architect Miguel Andres Salcedo, also known as architect Andoy. So he had a 6-year stint in Vietnam, where he handled a variety of projects from large master planned communities to the development of strategic tourism concepts for the city of Hanoi. So after Vietnam, he returned to Manila along with his partners of 260 Incorporated and is now the firm's director of business development. So this actually requires him to focus on the creation and the development of work with their existing clients, as well as seeking other job opportunities related to the profession of architecture. So this includes establishing a professional working environment with other professionals to expand and develop the current portfolio of work through new commissions and also to develop the expertise of their team and staff. So aside from this, he's also currently taking the lead when it comes to the firm's hospital and healthcare related project. And he's currently taking his Master's of Architecture focus on hospital design at the University of the Philippines. So let us all welcome Architect Andoy. Good afternoon, Architect Andoy. It's nice to have you.
Good afternoon. I'm pleased to be joining you as well and talking to our young students.
Uh, we're also joined by architect Jessryn Lim, who is a practicing architect, an environmental planner, and a certified Verde professional with more than a decade of experience in both local and international work. So she's also an alumni of the Glen Murcutt International Architecture Masterclass in Australia. She's a nature lover with a passion for adventure and outdoors, and she believes that architects should be the forefront in environmental safeguarding and preservation to create a better quality of life. So she values trust, integrity, and transparency in relationships with clients and proves that talent combined with a thirst for knowledge and willingness to learn and grow makes the perfect tandem. So she's also an avid architectural photographer, a graphic designer, a climate reality leader, and an active marine conservationist, which she then co-founded the nonprofit organization Reefs in 2019. So it's a pleasure to have you, Architect Jessryn. Um, welcome.
Yes, good afternoon, Jam. Thank you for
Afternoon.
having me here. I'm excited. And
Yeah. Uh, our third speaker is architect Michael Roger Sanchez. So he developed his career in architectural design to construction. So he's been in the practice for more than 15 years, and he's also done 10 years for design build construction. So recently he finished his MBA and his Master of Architecture in Collective Housing, and his goal is to never stop learning. So welcome to the afternoon talk, Architect Mike. Uh,
Hello.
hello.
Hello, everyone.
So once
hi,
again,
everyone.
thank you. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. Like I said, we hope to inspire a lot of people to take up architecture or to clarify questions regarding our profession. So I actually wanted, before we talk about the practice in general, I want to take this back to the beginning. So, like,
That's too far for me.
because you look young anyway, sir. So I really think that at this point, I'm sure that the listeners now are really at that trajectory in their life wherein they're trying to decide if this is the right road for them to travel. So my first question is, when you graduated fresh from high school, um, did you already see yourself as an architect? Was it already like um did you really think of yourself in that career, or what were the other options that you considered before choosing this course? So would you like to start, architect Andoy?
Okay. This is a backgrounder, no? As a young boy, I would look at magazines already and was always very curious at floor plans. I imagined myself, when I looked at floor plans, I imagined myself being inside the plan. Nobody taught me that, but I wanted to understand what those steps meant and what those rooms meant. Maybe because I was not happy in the house that I lived in. So I wanted to change it. And in fact, I distinctly remember, because I wanted to understand how those plans were. I cut up shoe boxes and then made models of those plans. So basically, to answer your short question is yes, I already knew that I would be an architect.
uh,
That's
how
my.
about you,
Mm.
architect Jessryn?
Well, for me, my younger self, not really until I got to third year, but back in the younger years, like during elementary, I was really, I do a lot of sketching, like more on portraits, like the national heroes portraits, the Lion King portraits, and always joining poster contests. And I remember I was painting uh, a city, and I can't barely remember, but yeah, it was already there. And when I was in high school, I was in an art club, so I was always doing the stage installation, and I really enjoyed it. Like I think I'm already um, I, I think I remember my mom told me I'm good at spatial awareness. I always like because we always live in a small house, and every time we visit bigger houses, I'm always in awe, like touching the walls,
Right.
like all those
Yeah.
stuff. But yeah, but before graduating high school, I already know, and I was going to be in a construction industry, but it was still, it was still something not like Sir Andoy, like building scale model at the younger age. But yeah, it was already there.
I see. That was actually my background as well. Like I did a lot of poster making,
Mm.
banner making, competition intrams. How about you, Mike?
My turn. um, for me, when I was in high school, I had a lot of options because let's just say I was a do-gooder student. Like I really was good at almost all the subjects. So I had an option of taking up medical course, and at the same time, let's just say I was also passionate about music and the arts. So I had that my option as well. So I applied for a music school before, and then eventually it ended up I was just being pragmatic about it because I was good at math, I was good at drawing, and then that was the time that AutoCAD was already like being introduced in the school. So They were also introducing computer. Like I had a good background with programming. So eventually I was just pragmatic about it. All my skills fit into this course, so might as well go to this course so I can utilize a lot of it. So I think that was my decision when I took up architecture.
I see. So, architect Jessryn and architect Mike, myself included, we had it's like we had we were interested with drawing since then. Were you also interested in drawing, architect Andoy, like
Oh yeah, yeah,
sketching?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I would draw a lot. I would draw a lot.
Ah.
And then my high school, the UP Integrated School kasi, now you have K to 12 eh. But
Mm.
in during our time, they were ahead of their, it was like a school lab by the College of Education. They already did there on our second year, you could get subjects already where you think you will be going in college. So we had electives. So some of the courses I took were drafting. So in second
Ah.
year high school, we were already drafting. So I was familiar already with maybe you're not well with the technical pen and so on. So by the time that we got to college, we knew how to draw plans already. So yun.
Uh, that's good that you already had a background with drafting. I actually got into architecture school and I didn't know how to use like the T
Allah,
square and the triangle.
Allah.
Then I would watch my classmates who were from technical schools and
Yeah, they're so
like,
good. No?
wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very fast.
So this actually brings me to my next question because there's always been a stereotype na if you want to pursue architecture, you need to be really good at drawing. You need to be good with the pen and paper. But do you think this is still the case now that we have like all the technology with AutoCAD and SketchUp and then now BIM? Do you think it's still important that you need that you know how to draw?
Definitely, definitely. Many of our new employees, when you ask them to sketch a concept, they cannot because they're all dependent now. That's my advice to the younger people. You have to be able to sketch your ideas. Sketch it. It's faster actually and more intuitive. And there's something very unique when you can sketch a concept in front of a client. If you will, syempre magugulat din yun, papakitahan mo ng model or something, di ba? But you can't do that and change the concept in front of that client. Or parang it will be coming out from your pen, iba rin yun, iba. So I guess, you know, so the answer to that is yes, you should hone your drawing skills now that you're young. Sketch a lot, you know. That's very important. I think it's very important.
Uh, how about you, Mike? Do you
Yes,
agree?
I've seen also like especially with my young staff. You're right that they're
Yeah,
already very
iba.
dependent with
Hirap sila
technology.
eh. Oh.
But it's something I'm starting to learn to accept that probably their way of thinking or their approach is different. Um, but it's true that it's more convenient, especially if there's a discussion that sketching can make discussions even quicker. Kasi if they're very dependent with technology, baka mawala yung battery, maubos siya, or
Mm.
brown out. So how can they express? But I've seen said also in my studies outside that yes, a lot of them are already very dependent with technology, but at the very core of it, how to express ideas through line will still end up in paper and pen. But as long as the ideas are delivered, whatever tools that they'll be very comfortable, I'm really just open to it. But for us, well trained in, at least in the old school, it's easier for us to communicate because we're already familiar with those tools and it's very accessible for us.
And architect Jessryn, in your office, you still implement the sketching.
Yes, it's quite important for me that we do a lot of sketching, the ideas, the pre-design.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
all sketches on board. I
Ah.
don't use computers the very beginning. And me myself, I don't know, like the connection from your brain to your hand, it's it's quite different. And like Sir Andoy said, that it's also great that you can sketch in front of your client. You don't have to be the best sketcher. So as long as you can convey the message to your client, I mean, even matchsticks is fine, just as long as they can understand. So yeah, definitely being an architect and have a good drawing skill, I think it comes in handy. And I still would appreciate if my staff can draw, but all of them can draw, so I'm happy about it. I'm old school also.
I see. So going back to student life, I'd like to know if you have like a particular um, significant memory of being in architecture school, like if you have any highs and lows of studying architecture. So you're smiling, Mike. So let's start with you.
My highlight during college was like winning the Christmas lantern contest. Christmas lantern making contest. And then I think one of the highlights would also be like working late nights with your batchmates. So
Yeah, that's
yeah,
right.
so those were the highlights for me. I can't even remember the projects that we made before, but it was like the camaraderie, because it's like when you do big projects in school, like you get to know each other, and eventually when you go to work in real office, like these are the same kind of people that you'll be
Yeah,
working
yeah,
with different personalities and ideas, and then it's just a matter of meeting halfway or compromising with the idea. So those were the things I would always remember, like working with people and working with teams.
yes, yes.
And how about you, architect Andoy?
Well, you mentioned highs and lows, so I'll start with the low. No? The lowest point probably for me, which eventually turned out to be good, was that it was the first day of school, and my professor in that particular class, it was design class, was architect. Well, he eventually became the dean of the College of Architecture, Dean Espina. So he was teaching us, and I was a little bit talkative in the back, and people were laughing at whatever I was saying. And then I guess he got annoyed and said, he told me, "Who's the guy in the yellow coming from?" Then when I went there, he said, "Why are you so noisy?" He told me, "Biruin mo, college na ako, noisy boy pa yung dating." So sabi niya, "Do you want to drop this course?" I said, "No sir, no sir. What's your name?" So I told him, okay. And then eventually, when there were projects to be submitted, because he found out I lived near his office, he would tell them, "Oh, everybody submit your plates to Andoy Salcedo." And I would be, then I became close to him. So that was the good thing, the good part about it. The high
Way
point,
to
the high point I would think would be, which any of us, I am sure of you, all of you would agree, is when you ace your thesis. Because you spend talagang para kang mamatay-matay na to do your thesis, di ba? You put all your effort, you want to graduate, you want to do your best. And then yun, so once you've given your thesis, you have a good grade, I think that's the highest point that you can get. Ang ano ko lang, tip ko lang sa inyo is that if you think you see something, don't say na hindi naman siguro makikita yan, because that's what happened to me. I thought that because hand-drawn kami, I said that if I change this now, hindi na abot or something, sige, baka mapansin. Yun, napansin. Napansin nga nung juror namin. And then I just said, "Sir, sorry, it's drafting error." So it's not. So my advice is, once you see something, think of something, fix it agad. So make sure everything is correct in your thesis.
thank you, sir. What a way to make an impression on your teacher.
Right. So now I'm working with him. We do projects together.
Uh,
But when I ask him if he remembers, he doesn't remember that. He doesn't even remember.
how about you, architect Jessryn?
Yeah, I agree with both of them. Like the highest point maybe or should be like the the late nights with your friends. No,
Mhm.
10 cups of coffee,
Pen lang,
maybe
pen lang.
a dozen of like Lucky Me, Pancit Canton. And then, yeah, like during that time, we never used computers, so it's all hand drawn. So like, imagine the back aches,
Mm.
especially when you cram. You're cramming na kasi it's deadline na tomorrow. That's how we worked before. And then also like passing the thesis, yeah, that's the biggest highlight. Definitely, no, when you're about to graduate, oh, thank God, I'm done with this awesome, awful, wonderful years. But yeah, that would be like the highest. Like it's for me, it's mostly the working with friends and having great instructors as well also pushed you to work hard. And I remember like an activity we were asked to do, like to measure an old church and draw it and make a scale model. That really like made me more serious about architecture. Like I was like, when you were in college, you were like, yeah, I'm really, I don't know how you call it, but yeah, that was just one of the highest points there. But the lowest, I can't remember. I can't
Because you
remember.
were a good student, I guess.
No, not really. If I don't like the subjects, most especially the minor subjects, I I withdraw it and find another better teacher for us, because there were a lot of terror instructors back then. Maybe it's different now, but yeah, it's always, yeah. I wasn't the best though, but thank God I graduated.
Not like
So
Mike. Mike is always great.
this is just like a disclaimer to the students listening. You might feel threatened that we're saying there's a lot of late nights, but yeah, there's a lot of late
Yes,
nights
yes,
when
yes.
you get
Even
into
until now.
architecture. Yeah.
Akala nyo pag graduate yun ng college, hanggang doon lang ang late nights. No. When
No.
you go to the profession, it becomes,
Okay.
and the
Yeah. So
deadlines are shorter. Di ba? The deadlines
yeah,
are shorter when you come to work. So
That's true.
college is really just training.
yeah. But it's fun. It's
Yeah,
fun.
it is.
Trust me.
Mm.
Yeah, don't get us wrong. It's so much
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
My
Like
classmates in college are lifelong friends. Parang you went through a war. You went
that's
through a
true.
war,
That's right.
a bond that cannot be broken.
Yeah,
And
I
I
agree.
remember like there was a night we had so much coffee na your body feels so tired, but then your mind just can't rest. Like even if you want to sleep, your mind's just like running around. So
Mm.
and also like with the people who I had my highlights and my low points are the people that I get to work now also.
Yes.
So like we meet in the
Encountered them, yeah.
industry, like they would think, oh, this is what your specialty pala. So well, let's work on this project. So eventually, at one point, you still get to work with each other. Kahit sa thesis nagsimula siya. That's where it
Yeah.
started.
so we're talking about the relationships and the friendships we've encountered while studying. So um I think it would be safe to say that the best advice you can give to those who are studying architecture is to like really build connections and yeah, don't burn bridges.
Yeah.
So you have any
For
I know
sure.
like um anecdotes with working with colleagues now and who were your former classmates before?
Mm. No naman, I just encountered them na lang in professional
Ah,
leads na ganun, but not. My,
You'll see
my
them
professor, yeah, I'm working closely with him now.
yeah.
He's also advising me in healthcare, so it's very good in that.
Mm,
Mm.
okay, so moving from student life, let's discuss the industry now. So, what do you think is the difference of the industry today compared to the past decades, and what has been like the biggest change that you've seen? Anyone who would
I
like to
would think
start?
the advent of technology, maybe that's one big shift. Although, as Mike was saying, I think Mike was saying when he got into the business, he was doing AutoCAD. We were already, yes, we were doing that. But there are leaps and bounds now with respect to the software that's needed, such as like with, when you're doing parametric architecture, those things couldn't be done before. Although, if you see how Gaudi did Sagrada Familia, it's almost the same. He just used a different tool, no? But it's because of the technology, the demand from the client is much faster, and the client is more demanding. Before, when you were starting, perspectives were pwede mong singilin yan na, oh, additional perspective ito eh, di ba? Kasi mahirap gawin ang perspective nun eh. Nowadays, architect, gawa mo naman ako ng view dito. O architect, gawa mo naman ako ng pag walkthrough. I mean, di ba, to get a good walkthrough, you need a strong machine, and it needs time for that machine to do that. So, so you need to invest in all of these things, no? The software, the hardware, in order to show your client, in order for them to. So that's one of the game changers, I guess. And the other thing is, as we were talking about, is our effect on the environment. Jessryn this is her focus, and I'm sure Mike is also. We are one of the most voracious users of materials, which is actually hurting the environment. So I guess we have to be more careful in doing our jobs. One such job that we did, that I think why we won the competition, is that most of all the other people who were in that competition were saying, okay, let's just demolish the building and then fix it and make it look nice, because the building was old. But we recommended saving it, so, and then retrofitting it, and then adding a layer of skin outside that made it look good. So you have to be. We are stewards of our environment, di ba? So those are the challenges. How because you consume materials, how can you preserve them? So that's the delicate balance, I guess. That I think. Oh.
I would agree. And in my case, like for me, how the industry has changed also was that for me, I felt like during the time when I was studying, it felt like also like the program of architecture then. For me, it felt like we were trained to be working abroad, like the Middle East, Hong Kong, and Singapore. So for me, we were like trained during that time to become the workforce of the people within Asia that needed the skills of architecture. But now I'm seeing that um, the course, or at least this program, already is starting to evolve, getting more significance with the Filipino ingenuity in design, that they're just not skill sets anymore, but they can be designers from their different islands. And with technology, it has given them access to even expose themselves through social media, joining international contests. So these are the things that has had such a huge difference now, that instead, like getting inside a factory, learning the skills and becoming architects, now I'm seeing more that the programs have evolved like all over Asia and the Philippines also, that they can already go to us even as designers, even from anywhere in the world. So that's a huge difference I've seen also.
Mm-hmm.
The word has become smaller.
Yeah.
More competitive.
Architect Jessryn.
Yeah, to add to that, like they're both right. Like especially for the technology aspect, like before, like yeah, it will take maybe a week for you to submit the whole exterior perspective. Because during my time also, we do a lot of drawing. I mean, manual drawing and rendering. So like it really take time. And now, parang it's so like you take perspective for granted now, because it's really easy to do it. But aside from that, maybe I could add also like the classic design rules. Uh, Back then, maybe they were more, not all of them, but some, like concern about like the golden ratio and the
Mm.
proportion, the
That's different.
symmetry.
That's
And right
different.
now, like people are so expressive in their art form, like you can do anything in the modern world, right? And then like before also, like I think because in the sustainability aspect, there were not, maybe not much of a concern yung construction waste. So they can just do whatever they want. And like maybe if we compare the Pyramid of Giza, like the pyramids, it took them thousands of years. And right now, like you can just print your house and you can have it like tomorrow. Like it's like the technology is really, it's quite like, you know, like the next morning maybe our houses would be just holograms, I don't know. But yeah, like the sustainability aspect may be more on like right now we're in this time now, we have to really think about the waste we will be producing because of the depleting of the natural resources. So I think it's harder, you know, but it's challenging yet very exciting moment for us to be in this industry. So I think maybe that's, maybe you can add some more jam if, you know, in your
Um,
past to
in I think I was when I studied architecture, it was a transition time between manual drawings to computerized drawings. So half of my student life, we had to do drafting work as well, and after like the higher years, we had to do AutoCAD and SketchUp. But I think right now, the incoming generation is already very fortunate that these technologies are really within the means. Like uh, before, uh, we had to teach ourselves, we had to innovate. We need to learn by ourselves to use this technology. But I think with the new generation, I talk like I'm so old now, but
Mm.
for the new generation, it's so natural with them to use this technology. Like they're really fast in adapting to them. So I think my only concern would be, you know, the loss of the human aspect of design if you rely too much on technology. So um, I mean, it's nice that we can like do perspectives fast. We can create revisions faster, but I think um, what you can't lose even with the technology is the probably the human aspects of art, of design or architecture. Like it could be the experience that you want to create as an architect or the solutions that you propose, because the machines are there, they are programmed to make things easier for you, but the one that's doing the thinking is still the architect or the designer. So um, yeah, so don't rely too much on technology. You still have to think. So
Mm.
um, I'd like to focus on your career, architect Jessryn, as a Verde. Uh, you're also an environmentalist, a conservationist, and you're also Verde certified. So were you, when you were a student, were you already interested in sustainability in the environment?
okay. So actually, when I joined the Climate Reality last year, we were asked to do a story about our environmental story. So I was like digging up like during my younger years, and I found out in my scrapbook, kasi uso pa yun,
Mhm.
I did a drawing. Uh, I did a drawing that says let's save the planet Earth. So I was, and then during high school, I was doing like save the planet Earth. I was always like doing sketches like that. And then in college, I mean, but I think more on like having an idol architect. Like I was looking at Glenn Murcutt's work. Like he was such an amazing architect doing a loan practice and very sustainable and very sensitive to the site. So, but like in my college year, it's not that parang hindi pa siya deeply rooted. So I think I was more when I was working in Singapore, because most of the design should be uh, green labeled.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Singapore's known for that. Yeah.
everything you have to conserve everything. So and then I think when I started my practice, parang I feel at home. I feel at home being an architect and protecting the earth. I mean, not protecting the earth, but really we are protecting ourselves, not the earth, because the earth doesn't need us anyway. So it's more on like preserving the human species. So yeah, it's I don't know. I can't imagine me doing, or I can't imagine not thinking about the site context when it comes to like designing a structure. I always put the users and the environment hand in hand. So parang I'm and because I'm always with nature, I see the destruction, you see the pollution. So that's why it's harder to be an architect and an environmentalist as well, because you know how
Conflict of interest.
yeah, it's quite challenging. So I'm not saying I'm already there. I'm still yeah, I'm still small steps, but it has to be and there should be an urgency on it, no, because we really need to do it. But there are so much challenges when it comes to sustainability. But yeah, we can talk a lot about it someday. But yeah.
And Architect Andoy, you've been in hospital management and designing hospitals. So, what made you interested in pursuing this as a like a specialty, like pursuing healthcare as a specialty?
Well, number one, we were thinking, well, in our firm, kasi our senior partner, president, founder Ron Miranda, that was his specialty already in the US
Ah,
when he came back. And the three partners, we decided to have different specialties and focuses. Now he's focusing on urban planning. The other is on sustainability. And ako naman, why I chose healthcare is it was very interesting. Everybody will always get sick, and so there is a need for hospitals. And from the first few jobs that we made, we understood that healthcare projects were very unique and different. It would always have to be very resilient and flexible because the healthcare industry always changes. Especially just recently, what happened, you know, um, it had to change. It had to a lot of the spaces had to be replanned in for certain reuses in order for it to be effective in infection control and so on. No, so it's very interesting because it's one of the most challenging buildings to do because there's a lot of technical information needed, a lot of, and if you make a mistake, lives are lost. If you let's say you make a mistake in the mechanical system of the operating room, people will have an infection and your patients will die. So that's why I think it was very an interesting focus because it was a very um, it's an interesting building to be focused on. Plus, my dean That's what he was teaching in the College of Architecture, that in the masteral course. The same dean that was called me on my first day. So I guess that's why I'm focused on that.
So I
It
get
led
that.
me from that day until now.
Based on this conversation, I get that you're the type of person who likes challenges. And am I correct in my?
Yeah.
Mm,
Actually, our
so
work really is very challenging.
yeah.
It is actually very challenging. You have every day is always, there's something new. There's something new
Uh,
to learn. You can't say that you know everything. You, it's an old man's profession, let's say the least. Diba? Frank Gehry became known when he was in his late 60s, 70s. So prior to that, he was just doing residential here and there, and suddenly, you know who he is now.
um, Mike, can you like share your experience in your masters for collective housing? Um, was it like a specialty that you really wanted to pursue even like prior to teaching in Southwestern and prior to the course that you took?
That's a very nice question because that was even a question I asked regarding in
Mm,
housing even before taking up architecture. Like my dad is a contractor, and one of the things that I've always asked him, like we built a lot of houses, but this is one thing I asked my dad. I remember asking him, like, we build a lot of houses for clients, but where do our workers live, or what kind of houses do they live in? And it was like a question I asked as a kid, but for some odd reason, it's the same question that has been like, that kept coming back to me. So at one point, like, for me, before like getting into practicing architecture, like after graduating, I took like a 2 year sabbatical leave. And in that sabbatical leave, I discovered that I have more impact every time I have a project, because this will allow for more economy for people to work in this project and eventually like to contribute in the economy. So when I got into architecture, I knew that in my head that I wanted to impact not just the people that we're serving, but also the people who are not directly involved in our aspect service of design, like from the mason workers, from the delivery guy, the people involved around the project. It sort of made me aware on who these people were, and made me also ask the question, like, we make such beautiful design for our clients. I hope that the people creating or doing these works that we're designing also get to live a good quality of life. And that led me to not just be an architect, but even started my construction. And with there, I started to realize that, and I started to slowly, one step by step, implement this with my staff, like with my workers, like um, for them to have a good quality of work. I was sort of like experimenting with them. For you to have pride in your work, or at least to learn from the every projects that we go through, let's bring this back also to where you are also living. Like so at one point, like I had my barber, I designed the house of my barber. I designed the house of my foreman and a few of my workers. So I then they would welcome me to their house, even though like how humble it is. But I just realized these people don't have access to architects, or at least people with our
Very good.
expertise. And so for me, I got into housing because collective housing, at least, like we already not just even think of the collective now. Like a lot of, like if I look at it, my workers, they go home to the province every weekend, but they work within the city and they live here. And the quality of house that they have is not as like decent, or at least, yeah, the poor quality even with construction, the material. So that's why I got into collective housing, because of that question I had as a kid, and it led me to where I am now.
Mm.
Thank you, Mike. The reason why I'm each asking you about your specific specialization or field, because I actually wanted to know if that is like deeply rooted in you as you as a person, or it's deeply rooted with your hobbies and your interests. And I think that answered my question.
Mm.
So I'd like to throw this challenge to our viewers, to the students. Na, when you pursue architecture, oh, this is so existential, but like don't forget about your roots, because like at some point in your career, I think you would really like go back
Circle back.
and
Mm.
So, speaking of specialization, what do you think are, given the changes in the industry, what are the possible careers that future architects might have, like aside from designing houses or designing buildings? What are other job opportunities that they can pursue?
That's an interesting question. I never thought of going anywhere else. No, but I realized many of my classmates, um, yeah, not all of them eventually became architects. Some became Unilever and so on. Iba-iba eh. But I guess something that's aligned to architecture, you may become a project manager. That's one that's very much aligned to the business of architecture. There's so many, but maybe I'll just focus on one: project management. Because as architects, you are like the driver. Eh? You are in the driver's seat. You manage a lot of um, engineers in different trades under you, so you have to take a leadership role. So you're trained like that also in college. So when you eventually graduate, you could be in a project management outfit where you would be working with architects, but you have to be able to time the project properly, and that's actually a lucrative business as well. It's it's a very good business. So I guess, yeah, that's one: project management.
How about you, Architect Jessryn? Um,
Yeah, like there, because architects are, or if you're an architecture graduate, you you bring a lot of, like, you have a you've learned a lot of meta skills with you. So, like, the specialization, whether it's from the pre-design down to post construction, you can really be put anywhere. Like, in if you're into concept making, I mean, okay, let's start with pre-design. If you're the type of person who loves research and development, you can do, like, you can specialize in the pre-design. Like, not all of the architects are really good at it, so you can work with a research team. And then if you're great at concept making, you
Mm.
can also be a concept architect. Or if you're just enjoying so much visualization, you can, like, do what do you call it, renderings for other architects, because the programs that the application that is used for renderings are so expensive. So you can also do that business, and then project management, definitely. uh, so and you can also be a photographer, or maybe right now even a vlogger, or you can host
yeah.
your own TV show. There are a lot of jobs out there for architecture graduates, actually, because I think we are a master of everything. You have to know each and every subject, I think, because our work handles a lot of expertise, I think. So Like you have to be a sociologist, you have to be an ecologist, you have to be a scientist, you have to be a good communicator, and you have to be a businessman. But when it comes to business, you can just ask Sir Andoy with that. But yeah, there are a lot of things you can do as an architecture graduate.
Um, Lastly, Mike, you're an educator, so we've had a lot of discussions about like um, what we want the um, what we want, what kind of students we want to produce. So, um, what are the job opportunities that you think they can pursue?
I think like for one, I'm happy that with sd+c FINMA, Southwest FINMA, one thing that I was really surprised that there was this school that offered the base or the core of design thinking and storytelling for their first year. For me, having this as the core education that we have in FINMA, wherein we can use these tools in design thinking and storytelling, not just in architecture, but even with communication. And hopefully, if we can expand to other fields. But for the future, like these are the questions you've asked, like how do we train the architects for the practicing architects for 20 years from now? And me and Jam, you and me have been asking these questions like what kind of skills or what kind of tools will be relevant for their time, because during our time was different and their time is also different now. So when we were asking, me and Jam were having that question, I think for me, I want myself to be surprised on who the architect will be in the future, as long as we give them the design skills to have critical thinking, to be problem solvers, to be innovative at the same time, and to be good storytellers, that everything that they're coming out of their hands, designing hands, has reason, has a story behind it, has a went through a process that's not just very that a process that in a way that's very intellectual, or at least has certain basis with data, whatever. But as I said, um, I want myself to be surprised on who the architects will be in the future, as long as we'll still teach them that same tools that have been taught to us years ago, like how to think critically, how our every decision impacts everything, not just us, but even the environment, even the economy. So that every decision that we do as design thinkers and has an impact, and at the same time to always have a story behind that their design or anything that comes out from our hands as designers has a story that tells about the future. Probably like our designs can tell us a story that before we were like this, but now we have this, something like that. So as I said, I know that was very conceptual, but my idea was that I want to be surprised on who or what kind of architects or designers will be producing in the future. I don't want to put myself too much in a box. There are so many ways to use our critical or problem solving skills that it doesn't have to be limited in architecture.
Yeah,
It can be expressed anywhere, as long as you make our environment even better than it was before.
definitely. So I think this is our last question. I would like to use this as an opportunity to ask you if you have any words of advice to incoming or to the future architects. So would you like to start, Architect Jessryn?
Okay. Is this by height or by age? I'm
By
kidding.
age, apparently.
Okay, so as for me, maybe, yeah, I think you have to, of course, know God's will for your life or your purpose in life, because it's quite important to, like when you're enrolling in an architecture school, graduate from it and not use it for the rest of your life, it's, for me, parang sayang. So please pretty make sure that you're really into architecture before enrolling it, because it's not easy. It's tough, it's exciting, a lot of opportunity for us to help solve the global issues. So just, yeah, just have maybe yeah, just make sure you already know, or you know what you want. So basically that's my first advice. And then um, second would be like, you have to work or study with integrity, because being honest in every aspect, in every dealings, is quite important. So that's like, doesn't matter if you're the one who's put down, so as long as you're quite honest your with everything, in any aspect. And then second, I think we should respect time. Like in my office, it's been years now, walang nalilate. I don't like being late. So I always I'm happy that we're able to manage our time and really respect each other's time. And then third, maybe have fun, because architecture is just so much fun. I tell you, I'm always excited to wake up every day, up until now. So that's why it's important to know that this is really your path. It's gonna be a hard and fun years ahead of you guys. And then I think lastly, just always be grateful. Whatever you're in right now, whatever you have, just always be grateful. So yeah, I think I'll just need to stop, because we have a lot of, I mean, two of the amazing practicing architects here to enlighten us. So thank you.
Thank you, Architect Jessryn. Mike, last words.
Yes. For me, I think one of the things before you enroll architecture, or at least when you're thinking about it, be honest with who you are, and at the same time, try to keep discovering who you are as a person. I know everyone's a designer because you design your life. Probably architect is one way of expressing your innate designer in you. So check 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 yourself if or at least try to ask more questions from our school if you have more questions about our program in architecture. And then one thing also, um, ask people or ask mentors around you. Possibly there are people who are already practicing, who are not here online, someone you personally know. Look for mentors also, because mentors who have the same heart as you have, because they will be the ones that you'll be looking at, as someone who has led the way also for your practice. So finding those mentors, and then also adding also to our program in Southwest and sd+c, the programs that you go there, like every project that you have, there's a mentor architect who will lead you there. So every yes, like Jam is a mentor, I'm a mentor, and then Jessryn will be the future mentors also. So basically, whatever you will be when you design, look for mentors who will question your ideas, someone you can trust, and someone that you're willing to be molded with, because these mentors will be very tough in asking you, is this what you really want? Are there other solutions? Or is this the only these are mentors who will keep pushing you and challenging you uh, to your to yeah, challenging you to have fun and explore your limits. And those are the two advice. Know yourself, and then look for good mentors.
Thank you, Mike. And I saved the wisest and the most experienced for us.
So I
So,
think mine siguro with an anecdote of an experience of mine. And for me, I keep telling that story because it was a realization for me. This is about a project we were doing, and it made me realize why I did architecture. So we were doing this church, here in San Pedro, Laguna. Churches weren't our specialty. We had a consultant, a good friend of ours, a partner of ours, who's been doing churches for 4 decades already. We divided the work between, he had a specialty in churches itself, but he had a real specialty in doing the interiors. So he gave us instructions to work on the exterior, and then he was doing the interior. Now, I don't know, in the school of in SDC, you teach classical architecture. I think earlier on, Jessryn talked about the classic architecture and the classic forms. And you know that those are finite dimensions. So a certain column would be this one diameter would be the 8 diameter. So yung mga ganon, no? So all of those should align very well. No? So we were doing the out, and he was doing the inside. And for 2 weeks, we were having problems making it match. So we were scratching our heads. And then because of the background of this partner of ours in religious architecture, he said, I think we're doing it wrong. He said that why don't we figure out first where the shrine, where Christ wants to be seen, because it was the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. So he set it in a proper dimensional way inside. And once he did that, everything aligned. Everything. It's hard to make all of those dimensions align. So I realized, of course, that taught you hard work and this and that. But this profession, you're talking about, I'm a designer. This skill is not you. The architects tend to become big egos. It's God given, and it's good that Jessryn started by saying, you have to give glory to God. No, and that's true. That's when I realized, it was humbling to realize that it wasn't actually really me doing this. We're just instruments in this. We're stewards of the land, so you have to take care. So study hard, work well, and remember that God is always around you and helping you to finish up. So yun lang.
Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. So I hope the students are encouraged and inspired to join our team. So that's it. Good afternoon. Have a great day, everyone.
Yeah. Have a happy weekend.
Thank you so much.
And have a happy weekend. Thank you so much.
Friday, yeah.
Stay safe.
TGIF.
Mhm.
Thank you.